Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Justin bringing you episode 2 of my podcast entitled Twin Makers Take. I'm by myself today. Andrew Weaverstance is actually in class today, and my other buddy, Bone Daddy Boggs, is, I think, having a few beers preparing for our draft. My big league draft is tonight at my house at 9 p.m., so this kind of comes at a good time. Today's episode will be covering only wide receivers, and obviously there won't be as much back and forth this time. Sorry if the last podcast was a little long, but this will just be my personal takes on the wide receivers, and then I'll give you a couple breakout candidates and sleepers that you could end up getting very good production for very little value late in drafts. Start off with my first tier wide receivers. Andre Johnson, I think, is the consensus #1 pick at the wide receiver spot, followed by Randy Moss. And I'm kind of hesitant about putting Brandon Marshall at #3, but I went ahead and did it. He has had over 100 catches for 3 years in a row. He did it last year with Kyle Orton. Some people think that Chad Henney's not going to be able to get him 100 balls this year. I actually think that the Dolphins, if they're going to push for a playoff run this year, they're going to have a more balanced attack. They obviously have that great running game with Ronnie Brown and Ricky Williams, but I think they'll look for Brandon Marshall, and I think they'll look for him a lot. He's not – I think a lot of people think that he's a burner, kind of a downfield threat. I think he's a little bit more of an Anquan Boldin type, a possession receiver. He's going to play on the outside. He's not going to play in the slot, or they might move him to the slot, but he's not a huge deep threat, although he can get open, as you saw last year against the terrible Redskins when he got behind both our safeties and got a couple deep bombs that game, I believe. And then Calvin Johnson, obviously, he is just a freak. Athletically speaking, I think he is the most athletic wide receiver in the NFL. He can outjump anybody, and he just has a huge size advantage over most of the cornerbacks and safeties that'll be rolling his way. I moved him up to 4 because they brought in Nate Burleson to run on the other side, so he won't see as much triple coverage. I don't think he was double covered at all last year. He was triple covered. I know his numbers were down, but Matthew Stafford having another year in that offense, improving the running game, bringing in Jahvid Best, and Nate Burleson is a uptick over their wide receivers. I think it was Bryant Johnson and then Mike Furry maybe once or twice. I don't remember if he was with the Lions last year or not. I don't have my notes open, but the Lions offense will be much improved this year, and look for Calvin to get, I'm guessing, probably around 1,200 to 1,300 yards, probably about 80 to 85 catches, and hopefully double-digit touchdowns this year. Starting in Tier 2, we have Reggie Wayne, Miles Austin, Larry Fitzgerald, Roddy White, Anquan Boldin, and then my next Tier 2 receiver is going to surprise a lot of you. He is my sleeper, quote-unquote sleeper breakout of the year. I don't think he's going to be a sleeper much longer, but I have Hakeem Nicks ranked #10 overall. I just think that he's got the ability to stretch the field. He either led the NFL last year or was second in the NFL in yards after catch. So he can do a lot of good things, even taking a short screen pass or a slant route right up the middle. And then at 11, I have Greg Jennings. I actually like Greg Jennings a lot this year, but I just think the Packers have so many weapons. Donald Driver's coming off 2 knee surgeries, so I don't think he's going to be as effective as he was last year, which could leave some people to believe that Greg Jennings is going to get more looks, which he may. But with the emergence of Jermichael Finley at the tight end position, you have James Jones and Jordy Nelson fighting for that 3rd wide receiver spot. And if Donald Driver isn't able to produce like he did last year, Greg Jennings is going to see more coverage. The Packers did, towards the end of last year, when you saw Jennings' numbers kind of take a turn for the better, decide to stop sending him basically in just deep routes and start getting him the ball a little bit, like 7-step, 10-step routes, and letting him do some things afterwards. Hopefully they'll do that again. The offensive line needs to hold up like it was starting to do at the end of last year in order to give Rodgers time to throw Jennings deep if they do send him deep balls. But the Packers just have such a great offense, a fairly balanced offense, and they have so many weapons. That's why I have Greg Jennings at number 11. And to round out my Tier 2 receivers, I have Marquise Colston. If the Saints didn't spread the ball around as much as they did, I think Colston is easily a top 5 receiver. He's got the size, the speed, the hands to do that. But since you just never know from week to week who is going to be on, and Drew Brees really looks for the mismatch and will play that mismatch all game. So you never know if Colston's going to get 7 targets a game or not. But that's the end of my Tier 2. Tier 3, we start with Carolina, Steve Smith, Deshaun Jackson. And I actually have Dwayne Bowe ranked number 15 wide receiver overall. I think he has a bounce back year. He apparently really took his offseason conditioning seriously. He came into camp. I think last year when he came into camp, he was almost 240 pounds. This year he came in at 210 pounds. They say he's looking really quick again. He is also a physical freak. He can outjump anybody in the NFL except for Calvin Johnson, I think. He does have some drop problems, but if he can get his head on straight, Matt Castle having another year in that offense, the emergence of the Kansas City running game, whether it be Jamal Charles or Thomas Jones, really should open things up for Dwayne Bowe to have a nice bounce back year. Number 16, I have Ocho Cinco. Number 17, Sidney Rice. Number 18, Mike Sims Walker. Number 19, Michael Crabtree. Personally, I'm not drafting Sidney Rice this year. I don't think there's any chance that he comes close to the numbers that he had last year. He's had a hip injury all offseason. He did not get surgery on it. He basically had 6 months to rest, and it's still bothering him. He just started practicing the other day. This is Saturday, August 21st. I think he just started practicing this week, maybe just doing some conditioning drills, and he was complaining that he had some soreness in his hip afterwards. So also, I don't remember what exact Twitter feed this came out on, but apparently he said that he's now not sure if he's going to be ready for the first game of the season. So just be careful when looking at Sidney Rice. He has the talent. Brett Favre's back. Brett Favre's not going to put up close to what he did last year. I think it was a career year for Brett Favre. Percy Harvin's dealing with migraine issues. And, the Vikings receivers scare me right now. So, personally, I'm not going to touch them, but obviously it's a high-risk, high-reward type of receiver. Starting with my Tier 4, I actually have Jeremy Maclin ranked 20 overall. Then Johnny Knox, New York Giants, Steve Smith, Hines Ward, Malcolm Floyd, Percy Harvin, and Mike Wallace. Just touched briefly on Percy Harvin. Malcolm Floyd I have ranked 24 overall, and apparently today or yesterday the Chargers GM decided that he was going to start entertaining offers to trade Vincent Jackson. I personally, if Vincent Jackson stays in San Diego, I personally don't see him back before Week 10. I don't think that the Chargers GM, even if they're losing games, is going to pull out his checkbook and pay what Vincent Jackson is asking. And if you look at Vincent Jackson's contract, I think he's still on his rookie contract, and he's set to make about $550K this year. Take about half of that for taxes, so you're looking right around $275,000. He's already missing 3 games, so you're looking at probably he's only gonna be set to make about $220,000 this year, and that's, to me and you, that's a lot of money, but to him, that's basically nothing. I understand why he's holding out with the performance that he's had in the past about season and a half. He kind of thinks that it's an insult, but he's not going to be giving up that much money if he doesn't come back before the 10th week. Now, he has to come back before